What's up, guys? Coach Madden, YouGoProBaseball.com, here with Brent Pourciau, top velocity, and we're going to talk about the top velocity pitching mechanics and some of the big ideas. What do you got for us?
So I have a basic 6 mechanics, and basically what we're doing is we're taking this 1 second delivery and we're just going to cut it into 6 pieces. And then I have a 50+ one in the programs with John. He'll tell you about it at the end. So the basic 6, it's going to start with what I call lift leg momentum, meaning you lift your leg and it's when you start building your momentum, right? You got to be careful here though. A lot of guys want to try to use the lift leg to create momentum, and that's just going to cause you to fly open and transfer your weight early. So it's lifting the leg. The leg can help us keep the load on the backside. That's really what we're trying to do here. And then it's that falling forward and down at the same rate, or that controlled fall. That's what we're starting in that piece. So that's the first step. We're breaking into 6 steps here. Lift leg momentum. Then we have the load position. So that's as I'm falling forward and down the same rate. We're loading into the back leg, or what we call triple flexion. So triple flexion is the flexion of the hip, knee, and ankle. I want to flex that because my next component, or next phase, is going to be triple extension. So I got to get this flexion as I move at a leg lift forward and down the same rate. Also, to start to line my force vector here, that's the ankle to knee. That needs to point in a linear direction. What's the force vector? It's when I generate force and push off the mound, that energy is going to go in that vector direction. If I'm still vertical and I push, it's going to want to go up. So I have to get it linear somewhere to this front hip before I land, so when I drive, it pushes my hip and my trunk towards the target. So that's all a part of the load position. Third component is triple extension separation. It's the driving component, which triple flexion, triple extension, where you extend ankle, knee, and hip flexor, but you have to make sure it couples or combos with hip to shoulder separation. We always say triple extension's the engine, separation, hip to shoulder separation is the transmission. What is hip to shoulder separation? It's pulling the hip and back shoulder apart to allow the power to go ahead, and then for that to then carry the energy through the trunk. So if you don't do those together, it won't work. And that's the only part of the whole breakdown of the delivery with what we do with 3X pitching that has 2 things going off once. And it is the hardest piece. I always say it's like patting the head, rubbing the stomach. If you're doing them like this, you're not doing it right. You have to learn how to do them both separately. So this one's going this way, and this one's going the other way, all right? So that's a big piece. That's really the meat and potatoes of the program. That's where we maximize power and transfer it up the body. Then we have, at front foot strike, we have stabilization. When the front foot lands, it has to stabilize. We can't have any lead knee movement at all. So when we hit front foot strike, that's critical. If we generate all this power, we have to stop that power at front foot strike, so then it can then catapult and move up the chain. So stabilization is a huge component. A lot of times I talk about it last, but we'll put it right there. Then the other one is chest thrust, external rotation. So when you hit front foot strike and you're separated, your arm should be cocked, okay? The next movement is for the trunk to go before the arm. The worst thing you could do is drive and separate and then just throw your arm, right? We want to drive this trunk and carry the energy in the trunk. This is the meat of the body. This is going to push more energy. So what I like to call it is thrusting my chest. I want to thrust my chest. I don't want to throw my head forward. I want to thrust my belly and my chest out, and my arm has to lay back in that process. The reason the arm has to lay back is now it gives my trunk the time to go forward before I try to throw the ball. So chest thrust, external rotation. And then as I go to pitch release, I'm going to unload into flexion of the trunk and internal rotation and pronation. So if we are externally rotating or resisting external rotation, I'm resisting what's called supination, your thumb going back, that should unload with your trunk into internal rotation, pronation. So those are all 6 components that'll help you understand where you have to be, where you have to get, and how to maximize your body to maximize velocity and prevent injury. And like I said, we can go into 50 more components in between each little piece to better understand it.
And you can find the 50 different pieces in your program, right? Yes. And I'll leave a link down below where you guys can get that. Yes. One thing you got to remember, though, when you're up here on the mound, too, is that even though we're breaking it down into components and phases and things like this, it's still one fluid motion, and you got to work on that total movement pattern
takes
and
time.
get better. Yeah,
Takes a lot of
absolutely.
time.
So just remember, try to be an athlete up here. You know, pitchers are the best athletes in my opinion anyway
Exactly.
on the ball field.
Exactly.
But try to do that when you're working on your mechanics. Don't overcomplicate it in your head, even though you're working on specific things. Work on it, but remember it's a piece of the puzzle that you're trying to get into. Brent talks a lot about it being like a whip. You know, when you're transferring that energy like a whip. He talked just briefly before about the engine and the transmission. When you think about it as a piece of the movement, you're going to be able to grasp it a little bit easier.
And pull it all together.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So great stuff. If you guys are pitchers and you're looking to increase your pitching velocity, definitely check out the video we did. We shot 4 tips that will help you instantly increase your pitching velocity. If you want to check that out, I'll leave it in the first link in the description down below. Click it. It'll take you to a page. Enter your first name and your email. We'll shoot you that video over. Some great stuff in that one. If you watch it and you implement it, you guys are going to see some results from it. So do that. Check it out. Let us know what you think. And of course, you can check out all of Brent's other info down in the description below.